Real Madrid are not playing around anymore. After 2 trophyless seasons, they brought back Mourinho to the Bernabeu, and the special one is on a mission. Mourinho has been backed financially, way more than Carlo ever got, so now he has the freedom to reshape the squad exactly the way he wants. And he has a plan to get Los Blancos back to the very top of football. Anyone who has followed Jose Mourinho's career would know exactly how he builds winning teams. Everything starts at the back, and after watching Real Madrid over the last 2 seasons, let's just say it was obvious where the biggest problems were. They were far too easy to hit on the counter. They struggled in aerial battles and lacked the physical presence that Mourinho demands from his back line, so he wasted no time fixing it. The first phase of Madrid's rebuild focused almost entirely on the defense, with 3 big signings: Ibrahima Konate, Denzel Dumfries, and Marc Cucurella. Konate arrived from Liverpool to add some much needed physicality to the back line. He's exactly the type of center back Mourinho loves. Powerful, dominant in the air, incredibly quick over long distances, and comfortable defending one-on-one in open space. His recovery pace gives Madrid something they've been missing for years. Now yes, he did not have the best of seasons in 2026, but the season before, him and Van Dijk helped Liverpool win the Premier League. Last season, there were a lot of external factors. His father passed away, and Liverpool in general were super ass. So I think you have to consider those factors when judging his form. On the right, Mourinho wanted Dumfries, which makes perfect sense. Dumfries isn't a right back like Trent. He's not gonna ping a perfect diagonal ball. Instead though, he's built on pure power. He's constantly running up and down that right hand side, dominates in the air, and always finds a way to get involved in goals, whether he's scoring them himself.
And there's a chance, it's a second goal! Denzel Dumfries with another brilliant finish!
Or assisting someone else, he is where the action is. Seriously, his goals and assist stats is so impressive, especially at Inter. Anybody who watched the World Cup would have seen it on display as Dumfries consistently created opportunities for Brobby. Dumfries also adds a level of athleticism that Madrid simply didn't have before, and now if someone gets injured, they don't have to rely on Valverde there. It's also nice to have a fullback that's actually good going forward, but who isn't a liability defensively. Then there's Marc Cucurella. If there was ever a fullback designed to play for Jose Mourinho, it would be him. A rage-baiting coach gets a rage-baiting left back. Cucurella presses aggressively. He flies into tackles, covers huge distances, and never stops working. In a team that was criticized for just being filled with prima donnas, Cucurella is the exact profile Madrid needed. He's the type of defender who frustrates opponents from the first whistle because he's constantly in their face. I mean, that left side is the most annoying left side in all of football, Vinny and Cucurella. But there's more to Cucurella's game than just aggression and rage baiting. He has very high football IQ. He can overlap down the wing when Madrid need extra width, or drift inside to help the midfield, giving Mourinho another layer of flexibility depending on the opponent. We saw how deadly his crosses were to Oyarzabal at the World Cup. Cucurella has been a very important figure for Spain as they won the World Cup in 2026 and the Euros in 2024. Because remember, before the Euros, people still thought that Chelsea were scammed by Bryant. Fast forward, and nobody thinks that. Together, these 3 signings completely changed the identity of Madrid's defense. Instead of looking vulnerable every time possession is lost, Mourinho now has a backline that's quicker, stronger, more aggressive, and far better equipped to deal with transitions. Because in Mourinho's eyes, championships are not won by fancy goals and aesthetically pleasing highlights. They are built on defensive foundations. Now, people might look at these signings and ask a perfectly reasonable question. Didn't Madrid already upgrade these positions in the previous summer with the signings of Carreras, Housen, and Trent Alexander-Arnold? The answer is yes, but Mourinho is trying to build a squad that can last an entire season, not just one good starting 11. The players Madrid signed last year all bring something valuable, but they each fill a very specific role. Take Trent Alexander-Arnold. There are not many fullbacks in football history who can match his passing range. Give him time on the ball, and he can split open almost any defense with one pass. But number 1, he's not always healthy, and number 2, that's not what Mourinho is asking for every week. When Madrid have to defend a 1-goal lead away from home, or deal with a physically dominant winger, Mourinho is going to want a defender whose first instinct is to defend. That's where someone like Dumfries comes in. He's stronger, more physical, more dominant in the air. The same idea applies to the center backs. Dean Housen has all the tools to become one of the best ball-playing center backs in Europe, but he's still developing. And asking a young defender to carry the responsibility of playing 50 or 60 matches alongside an aging Antonio Rudiger and an Eder Militao who's always injured is asking too much. That's why Konate gives Madrid certainty. He's already proven himself at the highest level level and brings the pace and physicality needed to anchor the defense from day one. On the left, Carreras is still developing. His attacking quality is obvious, but like many young fullbacks, there's still room for improvement defensively. Well, now you have Marc Cucurella, who gives Mourinho the experience, aggression, and defensive reliability needed in those bigger matches. The other thing that you have to remember is that Real Madrid in the past few seasons have constantly been hit with injuries, especially to the back line. Militao, Alaba, and Dani Carvajal all spend long periods on the sideline. I mean, Alaba practically lived on a stretcher. Mourinho has no intention of letting that happen again. With La Liga, the Champions League, Copa del Rey, and international breaks, having just one quality player for each position simply isn't enough anymore. Now, Madrid have options. Once Mourinho had rebuilt the defense, the next priority was the midfield. For years, Madrid had been blessed with two of the greatest midfielders the game has ever seen in Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. But with Kroos retired and Modric going to AC Milan, Madrid had lost something that couldn't easily be replaced. They had plenty of athletic midfielders who could cover ground, win tackles, and be passion merchants. What they were missing was someone who could slow the game down when it needed slowing down, escape pressure, and dictate the tempo against Europe's best teams. That's exactly why signing Bernardo Silva on a free transfer was such a huge opportunity. Players with his quality almost never become available without a transfer fee. Bernardo has spent years proving himself as one of the most technically gifted midfielders in world football. Put him under pressure from 2 or 3 opponents and he rarely panics. Instead, he somehow finds a way to glide away from the challenges, keeps possession, and finds the right pass as if nothing ever happened. When Madrid are being pressed high up the pitch, Bernardo gives them an escape route. When opponents sit in that deep haram block, he has the vision and creativity to unlock them. I'm looking at you, Getafe. And when the games start becoming chaotic, he's the exact type of player who can simply put his foot on the ball and bring everything back under control. But Bernardo isn't just a luxury playmaker. One of the biggest reasons that Mourinho wanted him was because of his work without the ball. Throughout his career at Manchester City, Bernardo built a reputation as one of the hardest working players in the squad. The guy presses relentlessly and never shies away from doing the dirty work. It's a very unique combination to have. Someone who's that technically gifted but isn't afraid to put in a crunching tackle. It's a very unique profile. Tactically, he gives Real Madrid endless flexibility. He can drop deep alongside Tchouaméni to help play out from the back. He can operate as an advanced interior midfielder or drift into the right half spaces to link up with the likes of Arda Güler and Diomande. No matter where Mourinho uses him, Bernardo helps connect every part of the team. That's why Pep always glazed this guy.
Bern is my weakness. So it's top.
Perhaps just as importantly, Bernardo arrives with a winning mentality that's almost impossible to teach. After winning virtually everything during his time at Manchester City, he knows exactly what it takes to control the biggest matches and handle the pressure that comes with playing for Madrid and competing for every trophy. Then there's Tchouaméni, who signed an extension with Real Madrid. Mourinho is hoping to get the best out of this guy by finally playing him in his proper position. You see, because of Madrid's injury problems, Tchouaméni was constantly asked to fill in at center back or cover different roles across the midfield. He did the job for the team, but it meant the qualities that made him one of the world's best defensive midfielders were never fully on display. Now Tchouaméni can play as a proper defensive midfielder, sitting in front of that back four and protecting them like a condom. He's not there to dictate play like Toni Kroos or produce magical through balls like Luka Modric. That's not his game. He's there to break up attacks, win second balls, and make sure dangerous counterattacks never get started against Madrid. In many ways, it's the exact role that Makelele played under Mourinho 2 decades ago. A player who quietly did all the dirty work so everyone else could shine. That also gives the more creative players complete freedom. Bernardo Silva can focus on controlling possession. Jude Bellingham can drive into the final third. Arda Güler can drift into dangerous pockets between the lines. Why? Well, because they know Tchouaméni is behind them, cleaning everything up. The other midfielder I want to talk about is actually a potential midfielder, and that's Rodri. He is a massive piece of the puzzle that Real Madrid are desperately trying to complete. If Madrid actually pull it off, it would transform their midfield from good to unstoppable. Few players in football can dictate the tempo like Rodri. Game after game, he calmly keeps possession, completes an incredible number of passes, and always seems to know exactly when to slow the match down or speed it up. Everything flows through him. But what makes Rodri so unique is that he combines those technical qualities with the physical presence of a defensive midfielder. He's dominant in the air, strong in duels, incredibly difficult to dispossess, and has even built a reputation for stepping up with massive goals when his team needs him the most. That's exactly why Mourinho values him so highly. Tactically, Rodri would give Madrid endless possibilities. He can operate as the lone holding midfielder sitting in front of the defense and controlling the game from deep. Or if Mourinho really wants to shut down an opponent, he can partner Rodri with Tchouaméni in what would be a pretty dominant double pivot. Once Mourinho had rebuilt the defense and brought control back to the midfield, the final piece of the puzzle was the attack, and more specifically, fixing one problem that had held Real Madrid back for the last 2 seasons. You see, their attack has completely been unbalanced. Everything, and I mean everything, goes down the left-hand side. Vinny wants the ball on the left wing, Mbappe naturally drifts into the left half spaces, Rodrigo was there all the time, even Bellingham often attacked the same channel with his late runs. The result was predictable. Opponents simply overloaded that side of the pitch, crowding out Madrid's biggest stars, while barely worrying about the right flank. That's exactly why Yan Diomande was signed. He's the tactical solution to one of Madrid's biggest structural problems. Unlike many modern wide players who constantly drift inside, Diomande is more than happy to stay high and wide on the right. He stretches the pitch, pins the opposition fullback, and creates the width that Madrid have been missing. It completely changes how opponents have to defend. If they continue packing players over to Vinny and Mbappe on the left, Madrid can instantly switch play through Bernardo Silva or Trent and leave Diomande isolated against a single defender. That's exactly the situation the team wants him in, because few defenders can stop him one-on-one. His explosive acceleration, elite dribbling, and ability to beat players on either side make him a constant threat whenever he receives the ball in space. And if defenders start shifting across to stop him, that's when Madrid's other stars benefit. Suddenly Mbappe has more room to attack in the middle. Vinny finds himself facing fewer double teams. Bellingham has a bigger gap to run into from midfield. So not only is Diomande making the right wing more dangerous, but he's making the whole attack function better as a unit because there is now balance. Now the attack didn't need much reinforcement because, well, on paper it's supposed to be stacked. The problem has been the tactical fit, because as we saw at the World Cup, Mbappe, Vinny, and Bellingham are still very good at football. Well, Mbappe we already knew was good. Even when Madrid went trophyless, he scored like 100 goals in 2 seasons. But Vinny and Bellingham look like their 2024 versions. Mbappe finished the tournament as the Golden Boot winner, showing once again why he's the most dangerous forward in football. Playing through the middle in a system built around his strengths, he constantly ran in behind defenses and looked almost impossible to stop. Bellingham was just as impressive for England. He played as the number 10 right behind Harry Kane and always arrived in the box at exactly the right moment. Every goal was just a flashback to his incredible 2024 season where he seemed to be scoring every week. Then there was Vinny. For Brazil, he often looked like Brazilian Garnacho, but not at this tournament. Time and time again, he found himself isolated against the fullbacks, beat them one-on-one, and created chances that very few players in world football are capable of producing. In fact, he was one of the few Brazilian players that left the tournament with his head held up high, because he actually did what he could. Like, Brazil could have easily lost their first game of the tournament versus Morocco had it not been for Vinny. Even Brahim Diaz had a great World Cup, getting multiple assists for Morocco. Now, it's not like these guys suddenly became better players because of the World Cup. They were simply put in roles that suited them. That's the biggest lesson Mourinho will have taken from the tournament. Talent was never Real Madrid's problem. The problem was structural. As I mentioned earlier, Madrid's biggest stars all seem to just drift into the same areas, having a circle jerk together. Instead of complementing each other, they were getting in each other's way. That's why Vinny and Mbappe never look good together. Mourinho's entire system is designed to change that. With Diomande providing some natural width on the right, the pitch is supposed to become more balanced. Vinny can stay wide on the left where he's at his most dangerous. Mbappe can remain through the middle, constantly threatening the space behind the defense instead of dropping deep to look for the ball. Then Bellingham can attack from midfield, timing his runs into the box instead of being forced to play as a fixed central midfielder. There's another key difference under Mourinho as well, and that's work rate. No matter how talented you are, nobody gets a free pass defensively. Vinny and Diomande will be expected to track back and help their fullbacks. Diomande actually has great stats when it comes to winning duels and doing defensive work. Then Bellingham will lead the press through the middle, and Mbappe's responsibility will be to stay high, occupy the center backs, and be ready to punish teams the moment Madrid win the ball back. But the dictator's gonna have to press a little too. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's obvious that Real Madrid didn't react emotionally to 2 trophyless seasons back to back. They have an actual plan. The club identified exactly where the squad was falling short, brought back a manager who has saved the club before, and backed him with the resources to rebuild the team his way. Now, of course, football is not played on paper. Mourinho hasn't had a job managing a club this big in a while. He might no longer be the special one. There could still also be lingering issues in the locker room from all the crazy things that happened in the season before, like Tchouaméni and Valverde fighting in the locker room. Then you have Mbappe and Vini's work rate without the ball. Are these guys gonna finally listen and track back? Or will they start pouting as soon as Madrid drop a few points? We might come back to this video in a year and they've still gone trophyless. I mean, I'm pretty sure I made this exact same video last year when they signed Carreras and Dean Housen. But even if it all fails again, at least there's a clear plan in place. You can see Madrid's vision. To see how Mourinho saved Madrid in a similar situation 16 years ago, you have to watch this documentary right here.